A shooting at Lakewood Church in Houston, Joel Osteen's church, rocks the news for about 30 seconds and then mysteriously just disappears. So we'll talk about why that disappeared, why it only took a few minutes for that to disappear out of the news, and what this means going forward for the narrative. In other news, Joe Biden is declared to be unfit to stand trial because he's really just a kindly old man with some problems with his memory, by special counsel Robert Hur. We're going to talk about some of the reaction to that, both coming from the White House, from the people who are opposed to Republicans and think that Joe Biden can do no wrong. And Joe Biden actually holds a presser to try to prove that he is mentally competent to be the president and stand trial, and fails miserably, by the way. We're going to watch the whole thing. I made the determination we are going to watch the whole thing, so we'll check out what's happening with that, what that means, and where that goes. Ron McDaniel has stepped down, offered to step down following South Carolina, and there are already talks about who is going to replace her, so we'll go over some of that, what's going on with that. And the Super Bowl was this past weekend, so we're going to talk about some of the blowback, especially from the RFK ad, but also some of the Taylor Swift stuff going on with that. It is going to be all of this and more over here on Contemporary. And let me tell you, this thing called love, I forget the rest of that song. I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. For those of you who are listening back on a replay, whether it be on YouTube or over on the audio platform, and questioning whether or not this is live, this is 100% live as I go. Like, when I'm recording, I'm on air. There are people, and I don't know if anybody's piled in yet at the beginning of this. I haven't gone over and checked the chat yet, but yeah, this is live. We do this live. I love doing this every day. And yeah, I do sometimes come back out and completely forget open aspects of what we have going on here. I've got Linda Cloud and DM Ryan joining over on the YouTube side, by the way. And if you are listening back to this on a replay, do remember, this is live every Tuesday night at 6 p.m. Central Time. You can come in and get your chat read right out on air. But yeah, at the cold open, I completely forgot. Oh yeah, by the way, I put song lyrics at the beginning of every episode. And I just try to come up with something, maybe even Valentine's Day themed, right as I was going through the cold open. So yeah, 100% live. You can come back and join. But yeah, you can also check back on YouTube. I will private the video, like when I get done with this. As soon as I'm done, this replay of what we're seeing here gets privated, and I'm making a separate recording here, which is what I'll re-upload that back to YouTube. And I also I change it over to audio platform and upload that to Spotify, SoundCloud. I think I am on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, places like that. So you can go and check me out in any of those platforms there. But it's, yeah, we do this live. This is a thing. So I hope to see you guys sometime in the near future. I know that Quest Fanning will sometimes advertise us out, and we get some better views. But yeah, we got a lot to go over here today, by the way. A ton of stuff happened over the weekend here. I thought it was going to be a bit of a slower show, but just once we start piling things in, I am going to stop filibustering here in just a moment because we have to get down. I thought about it. I made a debate. I said, can we just go pick up clips? Can we do anything? No. The Biden press conference, we have to watch the whole thing. There's no way around that because just every single minute of it gets worse and worse. So that's going to be 12 minutes in the middle of this. I hope you guys are ready for this. I hope you grabbed a snack and grabbed some friends here because we're going to get right down to it here in just a moment before we get started. Make sure you guys go check out great programming such as The Daily Ignoramus and Overruled with KTZed. Go check out that great programming as we aim to bring you a better content experience from the common man for the common man. So go check out those channels. It is going to be a fantastic time. Also, side note for this episode only, although there may be one in the near future as well, you may hear a slight ticking in the background. I actually didn't realize that you could hear it over everything until I was in the midst of with the title card on and my microphone off and just having the music in the background. I didn't realize because I can hear it through my headphones now. But I made wine this past weekend, and it is 8 feet over there. And I'm sure because I can hear the bubbles through my headphones, it's picking up through the microphone too. As the carbon dioxide and the water lock gets released, it just lets a bubble up through the water locks, and I'm watching it happen right now. I can see it from where I'm sitting here. And I mean, you might hear it just pop, 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 as we go. That is totally normal. There are 2 jars, and I'm not going to do it for things I like this week. I'm going to wait till I've re-racked at least the apple wine. But there are 2 jars of apple wine. I made one with white sugar and one with brown sugar, and 1 jar of, they call it mead, but it's a honey wine that are sitting up there that are aerating right now. And this place smells fantastic. I'm telling you right off the bat. Birkenhoff was worried about the yeast smell, and he said that he hates that smell of yeast. It is fantastic in here. 100%. It smells amazing in here. And I hope to do more of this here, but we're done filibustering. Let's get started. Let's get into the news. And we got to start right away with the Osteen news. Is it Osteen or Olstein? Because I'm citing, and I brought up Stephen Ignoramus while I was in the cold open, but Stephen Ignoramus, he had a big segment on one of his shows. This was before I moved, because this was still when I had a chance to regularly listen to the Daily Ignoramus and interact. And now I just listen, but this was back when I could still interact with him. And I know Stephen thought that it was Joel Osteen for a while, like he had a Mandela effect thing going on here, like a lot of people think with the Berenstain Bears or the Berenstein Bears. He thought it was just Joel Osteen, and then somewhere down the line the timeline changed and it changed off in his head. I don't remember that one, but we got to talk about that one to start with. So let's get into this and let's get started. And we start with Fox 26 Houston for the day. Shooting at Joel Osteen's Lakewood Church in Houston. Female shooter killed. 7-year-old child shot. Now, female, male, I actually don't know. This has been bandied around. What little bit this is actually being talked about since yesterday. It's pretty clearly a he-she, because that's part of the reason that this all fell out of the news right away. And it's pretty prominently a leftoid, too, so there's no way they could go back and pin this one on anti-Semitism as much as they tried. Let's actually check over here. I've got Linda Cloud, like I said, and DM Ryan saying hi back and forth to each other. DM Ryan said Biden bought fried chicken and ate it with a black family. No, I think that might seal his re-election, though. We'll see. But we got to read for this one here. Ronnie Marley in Fox 26 Digital News reporting. A woman is dead, and 2 others were injured following a tragic day at a Houston and Lakewood church. According to Houston Police Department Chief Troy Finner, the shooting occurred between just before 1400 hours Sunday, when the woman, said to be 30 to 35 years old, walked onto the property on the west side of the church from the parking lot. Upon entering the building, Finner said the woman was armed with a long rifle, a trench coat, and a backpack. She was also accompanied by a small child approximately 4 to 5 years old, which makes this completely fucked up, by the way, too. Probably another reason that this disappeared out of the news. At some point, authorities said the woman began to fire. 2 law enforcement officers, a TABC agent with 4 years of service, and an HPD officer with 2 years of service, were working off duty, quickly engaged the woman striking her. The shooter was pronounced dead at the scene. The young child that was accompanying the shooter was shot and taken to Texas Children's in critical condition. A 57-year-old man was also shot in the leg and is said to be in stable condition. After the officer was engaged, she stated that she had a bomb. Authorities searched the vehicle and the backpack, but no explosives were found. Finner stated the woman also allegedly spread some type of substance on the ground. Hazmat crews were called to the scene, along with hey, look, I sound like Biden already. Decontamination units, and determined that they hadn't found anything of concern to the community or the location. Authorities said this was an isolated incident, and they checked the building for any additional risks. The shooter has not been identified. Yeah, that's changed since this came out. This is like the initial announcement that this all happened before they started to come back out and scrub things. And by the way, all the social media has been scrubbed because of all the other fun shit that goes along with this story. And this is just a fun... Now, and again, we say this. And we've already heard the rhetoric of this one. This is a couple days old already. Free Palestine on the AR rifle. Transgendered, leftoid, going into Olstein's church, which is very, very, very pro-Israel. So, yeah, this is not one. And like I said, I knew that this happened because I saw a couple people Xing about it over on X, but this wasn't one of those where you could just, no matter what happens, you get a wall-to-wall coverage out there. The Krasensteins are out there telling you everything that they can about the guns, and it's always the guns. And we didn't have 17 billion MSDNC posts coming off about this. This one went to the wayside in a hurry for a good reason. Because it goes way against the narrative. Like this from ABC News, a Lakewood church shooting. AR-15 had Palestine sticker, anti-Semitic writings recovered, police say, from Josh Margolin, Emily Shapiro, and Maria Villarreal. A sticker saying Palestine, by the way, Free Palestine, thank you ABC News for getting that one wrong, was on the AR-15 rifle a woman used to open fire at a celebrity, Pastor Joel Osteen's Lakewood Church in Houston, injuring 2, including her son, according to police. Some anti-Semitic writings have been recovered, but a motive behind Sunday afternoon shooting has not been determined, according to police. Really? Osteen's church, so a celebrity church, mega church, big target where people are likely not to be armed. Free Palestine on the rifle in a heavily Israel-centered church. No motive, you say? No motive has been determined. Where can I apply to work for this police department? Because I'm pretty sure I know what the motive was. Pretty sure anybody who's looked at more than 2 seconds worth of fucking detail on the shooting knows what the motive was too. Oh, and anti-Semitic writings on top of it. We do believe there was a familial dispute that has taken place between her ex-husband and her ex-husband's family, some of whom are Jewish, the police said. The suspect, 36-year-old Genesee Yvonne Moreno, entered the church with her 7-year-old son, and she may have pointed her weapon at a security officer to force her way into the church, police said. Moreno opened fire with the AR-15 at 1:55 p.m., police said. So, and that is review of what we have here. Authorities say they believe Moreno acted alone. She also had with her a second gun, a .22 caliber rifle. The AR-15 was purchased legally, police said. It's always purchased legally. And guess what? She was known to the FBI. Police said the suspect has a mental health history that is documented through us and through interviews with family. Police said she was put under an emergency detention order by Houston police in 2016. So, mental health history, known to the police, under an emergency detention in 2016. Back up here. AR-15 was purchased legally. Known to police. AR-15 purchased legally. Moreno has a number of arrests on her record, which investigators are reviewing, a law enforcement official said. AR-15 purchased legally. Moreno allegedly threatened that she had a bomb, police said. Officials searched her car and a backpack. Yes, we know that. So, there's some detail coming off of this. It doesn't say how she illegally bought. It just says the AR-15 was purchased legally. I'd like to know how long ago the AR-15 was purchased legally. So, clearly, and I'm going to come right out and say this, if this was pre-2016, then yes, I could see where this was purchased legally. Because the emergency detention wasn't until 2016, and they don't say how long before she's had the mental health history documented through the police department in the district that the shooting took place in. So I will give that some benefit of the doubt. ABC 13 Eyewitness News. This will probably actually give us a little bit more detail into that. Suspect legally purchased rifle used in Lakewood church shooting, HPD says. Charlie Ed City, Brandon Hamilton, and Chaz Miller. Reporting on this one, the person accused of firing rounds at Olstein's Lakewood church has been identified as Jenice Yvonne Moreno, a 36-year-old Hispanic woman, according to a search warrant. Overnight, agents with the FBI, Texas Rangers, and ATF raided a Conroe home believed to be connected to Moreno. Authorities also found anti-Semitic writings. We know that one. Dispute with ex-husband's family. Shooting was brought up concerns about safety at religious institutions. That's probably not a surprise either. Let's see. Let's see if we get where. According to ATF, Texas ATF, Texas Alcoholic Beverage Commission, one of the members was among the multiple commission peace officers who responded to the shooting. No, I want to see why, how and why she purchased the rifle legally. 7-year-old boy is fighting for his life, and a 57-year-old man was shot in his leg, released. But do they tell me? According to Whitmire, detectives are investigating the role Moreno's mental health played in the shooting. ABC 13 looked into Moreno's criminal history, which dates back to 2005, with the latest case coming during the summer of 2022 in Fort Bend County. Let's see, I've got 10/4/24/05. Failure to stop and give information, sentenced to 20 days. 09. Okay, so this is going to be, by the way, the part where we start to wonder how this rifle was purchased legally and when it was purchased. Because I said going back to 2016, now we go back to 09. Assault bodily injury, sentenced to 180 days in Harris County for kicking a detention officer. May of 2010, forgery. 11/3, theft, 30 days, so non-felony theft. Okay, that's interesting. And this might be a state thing, and I may be wrong about this. Evading, sentenced to 75 days in Harris County Jail. In Wisconsin, evading is a felony. And that will cause you to surrender your weapons. You'll surrender your weapons and you'll no longer be able to illegally buy one. I don't know if evading is a felony in Texas. I will cite ignorance to that one. But if you were up here in the Mitten, yeah, you wouldn't have a legally purchased or owned AR-15. Also interesting to note off that, I just thought of that when I was saying this too. The first article said legally purchased. It didn't say legally owned. And this may or may not be relevant to this, or that just might be linguistic propaganda. 6/15, 2022. Fort Bend County. Unlawful carrying of a weapon, still an active case. Now, that's only a couple years old, so at this point, like, if that was a full conviction, then that wouldn't be a surrender of weapon. But if you've unlawfully carried, it's typically you surrender your firearms at that point. Finner said her family didn't attend services at Lakewood and stressed that Moreno acted alone. Authorities are looking into how Moreno was able to obtain weapons given her mental health history. So, apparently, there's a lot of question about this one. We'll see. This is going to continue to get interesting, I'm sure. Lengthy criminal history, including weapons charges. We know that already. I believe, yes, this is our last one on this one. I've been through hell. Neighbors say Lakewood church shooter harassed, threatened them for years. So once again, we question the fact of how does this person buy an AR-style rifle? And we keep hearing about the fact that, hey, you know, we want to make more gun laws because criminals are still getting guns no matter how many gun laws we have out there. And I sit here and I look at something like this. And I'm not a lawyer. I'm not in the criminal justice system in Houston. So I don't know all the details. But just from a cursory glance at what happened here, this person should not have been legally able to buy an AR-15 or possess one at the time. Enforce the laws that are on the books, people. Neighbor spoke with KPRC2 Corley Peel about the red flags they noticed while living next to Janice Moreno, the woman involved in the Lakewood church shooting on Sunday. Several neighbors said Moreno harassed and threatened them for 4 years. I've been through hell. I've reported this, and it's gone on deaf ears, said Jill. A neighbor, I've had psychological officers out here that won't answer their door. They won't do anything until she hurts you. There's nothing we can do. Everyone keeps saying, all these big news stations, see something, say something. Jill said Moreno had written swastikas on her property, placed baby monitors on a fence they share, and taunted her and her grandchildren multiple times. Yeah, this person is definitely all there. If this is true, of course, this is all alleged. All suspects are innocent until proven guilty. She added that she saw Moreno Sunday morning, hours before the shooting at Lakewood Church, and noticed Moreno placed a blue tarp over her vehicle in the driveway and was placing items she couldn't see inside the car. So, absolutely charming, people. Yeah, this is Texas, though, so that is what we have on the Lakewood shooting, and this is going to be lengthy, but like I say, with the Palestine thing, this is, I think, going to be out of the news pretty fucking quick. Well, I mean, it already has been, but I don't see this one coming back up. Now we get to talk about the title story of this particular video. From NPC News to start us out today, Biden will not be charged in classified documents case. Special counsel cites instances of poor memory. Dude, I am telling you, the left is fucked every which way with this. It's not just the fact that they have to go back and try to explain away a senile president at this point. They are hands tied in every single possible way you can imagine with this. Let's read. And then I'll explain a little bit some of the other reasons why this completely screws everything that it is they're trying to do. Ryan J. Riley, Ken Delanian, and Megan Leibowitz. Robert Hur, special counsel, has declined to prosecute President Biden for his handling of classified documents, but said in a report released Thursday that Biden's practices present serious risk to national security, and added that part of the reason he wouldn't charge Biden was that the president could portray himself as an elderly man with poor memory who would be sympathetic to a jury. He basically said Biden is old and senile and can't hold trial. Our investigation uncovered that Biden willfully retained and disclosed classified materials after his vice presidency when he was a private citizen, the report said, but added that the evidence does not establish Mr. Biden's guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. the report from her, who previously was appointed rather by former President Trump as one of the country's top federal prosecutors, has also made clear the material distinctions between a theoretical case against Biden and the pending case against Trump for his handling of classified documents, noting serious aggravating facts in Trump's case. So even an appointed member of the DOJ that was appointed by Trump is saying, "But Trump!" Her's report included several shocking lines about Biden's memory, which the report said was significantly limited during his 2023 interview with the special counsel. Biden's age and presentation would make it difficult to convince a jury beyond a reasonable doubt that the now 81-year-old was guilty of willfully committing a crime. We have also encountered that at trial, Mr. Biden would likely present himself to a jury, as he did during our interview of him, as a sympathetic, well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory. It said, based on our direct interactions and observations of him, he is someone for whom many jurors will want to identify reasonable doubt. It would be difficult to convince a jury that they should convict him, by then a former president, well into his 80s, of a serious felony that requires a mental state of willfulness. Well, there are a couple problems with this as well, based on what it is that Her said. Later in the report, the special counsel said the president's memory was worse during an interview with him than it was in recorded conversations of 2017. That I believe. He did not remember when he was vice president, forgetting on the first day of the interview when his term ended. If it was 2013, when did I stop being vice president? And forgetting on the second day of the interview when his term began. In 2009, am I still vice president? The report said. Biden also had difficulty remembering the timing of his son's death, as well as a debate about Afghanistan, the report said. He did not remember even within several years when his son Beau died, the report said. Defenders of the president quickly pointed out that he sat for the interview in the days after Hamas's October 7th attack on Israel. Biden, giving previously scheduled remarks on Thursday, appeared to nod to that, saying, "The middle of handling an international crisis, man." He also added that he was especially pleased, yeah, I'm sure he fucking was, that the special counsel made clear the stark differences between this case and Donald Trump. Andrew Weissman, who served on the special counsel Robert Mueller's team, said Thursday on MSDNC that Her's decision to lodge criticisms of Biden's memory problems was gratuitous and reminded him of when former FBI Director Comey held a news conference criticizing Hillary in the months before the 2016 election. So, Democrats are fucked every which way on this one. This probably ends the classified documents case against Trump. And there are a lot of them that are playing a lot of bravado right now, saying that, no, this is actually even bigger classified documents case, and now we have to go after Trump. First off, one of the things to point out with this is Her is making the assumption right now that Biden would be presented to the jury as old, feeble, poor memory for what he is doing now. Keep in mind, Biden's term ended in 2017. And it's even brought up there that he actually was sharper, although he still wasn't completely on the fucking ball. He was sharper in 2017 than he is now, which is when the willful retention of the documentation would have been taken. And that any point of putting him on the stand, remember, as a private citizen, he does not have to testify against himself. He has Fifth Amendment protections against doing so. He can come out and say, "I take the Fifth, man, come on! The Fifth! Was that the Fourth I'm supposed to take, man? I don't know. When did Beau die?" But he can do that. He has the same rights that the rest of us do. So, the proof on Her's plate, if this were to be prosecuted, which it's not for obviously political reasons, but if this were to be pushed as prosecution, the burden of proof would be that he had willfully retained them when he was still sharp in his memory. And all the defense team would be doing would be coming out to give the sympathy vote. But, again, I don't want to... I know that we are never going to see the prosecutor in this country, the district attorney, anything, who can prosecute a former president or any major political leader without having a major partisan political leaning. It's the same reason. This goes all the way back to the 2015-2016 campaign when we were in stadiums, filled shoulder to shoulder with chants that shook the ground up. Lock her up! Lock her up! Lock her up! And I said at the time, that is stupid. You are never going to lock up a former president and have half the country accept it. Or, in Hillary's case, a former presidential candidate. Excuse me. If she gets prosecuted and convicted. Excuse me. You cannot breathe your saliva, by the way. That is a tip to live by. If Hillary gets prosecuted and convicted, all the Democrats out there, especially the people who are anti-Trump, start coming out with a pitchfork saying, it was political persecution! She's going to prison! Because Trump's DOJ hates her and wants to take out his political enemies, you know, much like MAGA is saying right now. They'd be using the same excuse. And they'd be right to do so, by the way. I despise Hillary Clinton, and I still understand the ramifications of doing something like this. You're going to get the exact same thing out of Biden. Who is going to prosecute Biden? A Trump-appointed judge? Oh, the people will be in the streets with pitchforks and tiki torches, saying that it's a Trump appointee and we need to hang all MAGA because they're using the DOJ. They're using the criminal justice system to persecute their enemies. Somehow it won't register to them the fact that MAGA is saying the same thing about the classified documents case in Trump. So there's that avenue of things. But this really does screw the prosecution of Trump, especially the people that want to see him in prison so he can't go back and run for president again, based on the fact that they think that it's a problem. They think that Robert Hur was giving a great big gift to MAGA by saying that Joe Biden was too feeble to stand trial, which they did. Because if they come back and say he's the sharpest in the tack, then I say, okay, well, let's apply the law the same way then, and let's get him to trial. But, no buts. Put him in front of the judge. Put him in front of the grand jury. If you think he is competent to stand trial for the exact same crime, and by the way, proven dissemination, because it was brought up in the interview that he did tell his ghostwriter for his book the classified information. Not just that he had it, but that what it was. His ghostwriter has come forward and testified and was able to corroborate the information that's in the classified documents, which means he willfully disseminated the information. We still have no proof that Trump disseminated any information or even had any classified information. But we've got this guy coming out and disseminating what is corroborated in the articles. So, if he's competent to stand trial, put him in front of the grand jury. So, we have that. I think he's under the bus. Sometime before November. We'll see. We'll see what happens with that. So I'm not going to go too deep into this one here, but we do have one article from our friends over at NPR. And we do have to bring up this article because you have to remember to hit that donate button because NPR cannot survive more than 10% without your donation. They're only 10% government funded. And that's not enough to keep their staff writers on staff and the advertisers. Too many people have ad blocks. So hit that donate button because NPR cannot tell you that Biden is okay and Trump is the most evil human being that has ever walked the earth. Unless you hit that donate button, their reach is severely skewed unless you hit that big red button. So, NPR, never printing reality, National Progressive Radio. Let's see what it is that they have to say. And this is a read the special counsel's report on Biden's handling of classified documents. Special counsel Robert Hur released report of his investigation into Biden's handling of classified documents that were found at his home in Delaware. And a think tank in office in D.C., Hur has been investigating the matter for more than a year. While the special counsel concluded that no criminal charges are warranted, Hur's report also said that the probe uncovered evidence that Biden willfully retained and disclosed classified materials after his vice presidency when he was a private citizen. So, again, we're not going to go into this one, because this is almost 400 pages of legalese and analysis. But I'm going to put this into the live chat for you. There it is. Put this in the Rumble chat. Because you can see if you're watching this on a video platform, if you're listening on Spotify, I'm sorry, you can't see this. But you can see this on any other video platform that, I mean, this is the full PDF. 388 pages. And I have not read this one myself. I will fully come out and admit I have not read this one myself. But I'm also going to come back and put it in the Discord. I didn't put the Rumble link in the Discord today. Whoops. Maybe that's why fewer people than normal are on Rumble. Anyway. Put this up in general chat for you guys. If you would like to read that, it is right there, ready for you to read. And we'll move on. So you'll skip that one. That one's a review. CBS News wants to tell us the differences between the Trump and the Biden documents cases, which is obvious. We know what the differences between those are. Biden is the saint of the government worship religion, and Trump is the demon, the orange devil of the government worship religion. Hur's report detailing his investigation into Biden for allegedly retaining sensitive government information as a private citizen drew immediate comparisons to the case against former President Trump. Because, but Trump! The charges against Trump were filed by another special counsel, Jack Smith. Trump has pleaded not guilty and has continually criticized Smith's probe. He seized on Hur's findings to call for the charges filed against him to be dropped, saying Hur's decision to not bring charges in the Biden case was evidence of the Justice Department's political motivations. Let's see. Federal investigators recovered roughly 300 documents bearing classification markings from Trump's club at Mar-a-Lago after he left the White House. Did we find more? Because I was the understanding it was like 23 documents. According to court filings from the DOJ. They were retrieved in 3 tranches between January and August 2022, when the FBI searched the former president's South Florida home. Prosecutors allege that Trump kept boxes containing documents marked classified in several places at the Mar-a-Lago, including a ballroom, a bathroom, and a storage room, where more than 80 boxes were stacked. Many of the boxes contained highly classified documents, intermingled with other records like photographs and newspapers. The documents Trump is charged with retaining allegedly included information about U.S. nuclear programs. Allegedly, by the way. You will never see what's in those documents, so you will never be able to determine that for yourself. But allegedly, they're nuclear secrets. Defense and weapon capabilities of the U.S. and other countries, vulnerabilities of the U.S. and its allies to attack, and how the U.S. would retaliate in response to an attack. Prosecutors said they included material prepared by the CIA, NSA, and Pentagon, the Energy Department, and other intelligence agencies. In addition to Mar-a-Lago, the special counsel alleges that some of the boxes with sensitive government records were brought to Trump's property in Bedminster, and Trump later shared some of the information with book writers. Still also see no corroboration of that in Biden's case. Hur said investigators recovered dozens of documents with sensitive information that he kept after his vice presidency, including records about military and foreign policy in Afghanistan. He also had notebooks containing handwritten entries about national security and foreign policy issues. Investigators determined that 37 of those entries had top secret or secret information. Her's team wrote that some of the handwritten notes contain information about intelligence sources and methods, military programs and capabilities, and plans and capabilities of foreign terrorist organizations. During Biden's interview with special counsel, Her wrote the president said he likely kept the notebooks because they are mine. A federal law known as the Presidential Records Act lays out requirements for how presidents' records are handled during and after their presidency. Jason Barron, a former director of litigation at the National Archives, told CBS News that the law distinguishes between official presidential records and personal material. Why Trump was charged and Biden wasn't. I can tell you that in a second. R. D. That's why. Her himself laid out the distinctions between the Trump and Biden cases. Mr. Biden turned in the classified documents to the National Archives, and the Department of Justice consented to the search of multiple locations, including his home, and sat for a voluntary interview and in other ways cooperated with the investigation. Trump is accused of falsely claiming he was cooperating fully with the FBI and had turned over all the documents sought by investigators, even though he continued to keep dozens of them. After being given multiple chances to return classified documents and avoid prosecution, Trump allegedly did the opposite. So they're trying to pull the intent card off of it, which I think is a very, very feeble case that they have. But that's what they're going to try to say. Here's a bit of a too little too late. Biden's handlers, formed task force for handling classified documents. President Biden launched a task force on Monday intended to address a long-standing problem of mishandling classified documents during presidential transitions. The move comes after a special counsel report into Biden's handling of such documents concluded last week with no charges, but found his actions presented serious risks to national security. The Presidential Records Transition Task Force will evaluate existing procedures and study previous presidential transitions per the White House. It will also identify ways to address the removal of classified documents, with goal is to ensure that sensitive presidential records are preserved. Yeah, this is completely symbolic. This is I got caught and I'm gonna make it look like I did something, Jack. If you think I didn't do anything, I'm gonna take you behind the woodshed, man. Wrap a chain around my fist. That's exactly what this is. So, we've got a brief video from RNC Research basically showing Joe being demented. This was put out by a political Puerto Rican over on X who says, "The Trump is not well hashtag was started because the left is having a hard time coping with the indisputable fact that senile dementia Joe. Biden is not well." Yes, they go out and try to find just anything that they can find, showing that President Trump once said something out of place and say that Trump is not well when we've got video after video like this. So we'll look at a little bit of this one, but the meat and potatoes is here. And yes, we're going to do the entire 12-minute press conference for this one. It's going to put a crunch on the rest of this, but we're going to do the entire 12-minute press conference for this one. But let's look a little bit at this.
Anyway, and I don't want to, well, maybe choose my words. I was just thinking, anyway, I just, look, I mean, Putin's kleptocracy, yeah. It was in January, after being elected, the late January, early February. He said, it's not, we lead, not just, well, I won't go into it. Here's what drives the driver in the states that are affected. Here's what you can do, the drivers. For two reasons. One, it's an impact the decades are making, because inaction was there was inaction with the Department of
80 million votes, folks. 81 million votes are right there. All right, and the crux of this. So we have got 12 and a half minutes of White House remarks. This is this was the very first press conference after this all came out, in which they tried to show that Biden is mentally with it. He's able to do this. I might skip around a little bit of this, but I mean, it's hard to skip around when he just completely goes off the rails in meltdown mode throughout this. But we're going to watch it, or at least most of it.
Hey, buddy. Let me say a few things before I take your questions. As you know, the special counsel released his findings today about their look into my handling of classified documents. I was pleased to see he reached a firm conclusion that no charges should be brought against me in this case. This was an exhaustive investigation going back more than 40 years, even into the 1970s when I was still a new United States Senator. The special counsel acknowledged I cooperated completely. I did not throw up any roadblocks. I sought no delays. In fact, I was so determined to give the special counsel what he needed, I went forward with a 5-hour in-person interview over 2 days on October the 8th and 9th of last year, even though Israel had just been attacked by Hamas on the 7th and I was very occupied. It was in the middle of handling an international crisis. I was especially pleased to see special counsel make clear the stark distinction and difference between this case and Mr. Trump's case. The special counsel wrote, and I quote, "Several material distinctions between Mr. Trump's case and Mr. Biden's are clear," continuing to quote, "Most notably, after given multiple chances to return classified documents to avoid prosecution, Mr. Trump allegedly did the opposite. According to the indictment, he not only refused to return the documents for many months, he also obstructed justice by enlisting others to destroy evidence and then to lie about it. In contrast," we went on to say, "Mr. Biden turned in classified documents."
And this is teleprompter Biden, and he is doing fantastically with that. I mean, his drugs are still kicked in and holding him up too.
Cooperated with the investigation, end of quote. I've seen the headlines since the report was released about my willful retention of documents. These assertions are not only misleading, they're just plain wrong. On page 215, if you had a chance, I know it's a thick document. On page 215, the report of the special counsel found the exact opposite. Here's what he wrote. "There is in fact a shortage of evidence that I willfully retained classified materials related to Afghanistan." On page 12, the special counsel also wrote for another documents. "The decision to decline criminal charges was straightforward. The evidence suggests that Mr. Biden did not willfully retain these documents. The evidence said I did not willfully retain these documents. In addition, I know there's some attention paid to some language in the report about my recollection of events. There's even reference that I don't remember when my son died." How in the hell dare he raise that?
I think that is the point right there where he went off teleprompter and all the staffers out in the room just kind of perked up and started smoking or drinking or whatever it is, whatever vice that they have. They're probably Gen Zers of that administration, and started vaping, and just this collective no rose up amongst them.
Frankly, when I was asked the question, I thought to myself, it wasn't any of their damn business. Let me tell you something. Some of you have
Here it comes.
I wear since the day he died every single day, the rosary he got from Our Lady of...
I remember every detail of my son's death, man. And he got the rosary from Our Lady of... Oh.
Every Memorial Day we hold a service remembering him, attended by friends and family and the people who loved him. I don't need anyone to remind me when he passed away or passed away. Simple truth is I sat for a 5-hour interview over 2 days of events. 40 years. At the same time I was managing international crisis, their task was to make a decision about whether to move forward with charges in this case. That's their decision to make. That's the council's decision to make. That's his job. And they decided not to move forward. For any extraneous commentary, they don't know what they're talking about. It has no place in this report. The bottom line is the matter is now closed. I'm going to continue what I've always focused on, my job of being President of the United States of America. Now, thank you, and I'll take some questions.
President Biden,
No!
special counsel said,
And he tries to be funny here
one of the
with
reasons
Ducey.
you were not charged is because, in his description, you are a well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory.
I'm well-meaning, and I'm an elderly man, and I know what the hell I'm doing. I've been president, and I put this country back on its feet. I don't need his recommendation.
Bullshit.
It's
How
totally
bad
out.
is your memory, and can you continue as president?
My memory is so bad, I let you speak. That's my...
I let you speak,
My
man.
memory is not good. My memory is fine. My memory, take a look at what I've done since I become president. None of you thought I could pass any of the things I got passed. How'd that happen? You know, I guess I just forgot what was going on.
Mr. President,
Voters have concerns.
What a fucking prick.
How are you going to assuage them? And do you fear that this report is only going to fuel further concerns about your age?
Only by some of you.
Mr.
Mr.
President,
You were cleared of criminal liability today, but do you take responsibility for at least being careless with classified material?
I take responsibility for not having seen exactly what my staff was doing. It goes in and points out things that appeared in my garage, things that came out of my home, things that were moved not by me, but my staff.
Which is a good question.
For months when you were asked about your age, you would respond with the words, "Watch me."
Watch
Many
me.
American people have been watching, and they have expressed concerns about your age.
That is
They
your
s-
judgment.
they-
That is
this
your
a
judgment.
No, that is our
That is
judgment.
not the
They express
judgment of the
concerns-
press.
They express concerns about your mental acuity. They say that you are too old. Mr. President, in December, you told me that you believe there are many other Democrats who could defeat Donald Trump. So why does it have to be you now? What is your
Because
answer to
I'm the
that
most
question?
qualified person in this country to be president of the United States and finish the job I started.
Do you believe that?
Oh, shit.
Mr. President, why are you confusing the names of world leaders?
I did not share classified information. I did not share it.
With your ghostwriter.
With my ghostwriter, I did not. Guarantee you did not.
Yes, you did.
What the, well, no, he did not say that. He did not say that.
Mr. President,
Well, let me answer your question. The fact of the matter is, what I didn't want repeated, I didn't want him to know, and I didn't read it to him, was I had written a long memorandum to President Obama why we should not be in Afghanistan. And I was of this, multiple pages. And so what I was referring to, I said classified. I should have said it should be private because it was a contact between the president and the vice president as to what was going on. That's what he was referring to. It was not classified information in that document. That was not classified.
When you look back at this incident, is there anything you would do differently now? And do you think that a special prosecutor should have been appointed in the first place in both of these cases?
First of all, what I would have done is oversee the transfer of the material that was in my office, in my offices. I should have done that. if I go back, I didn't have the responsibility to that. That was my staff was supposed to do that, and they referenced that in the report. And my staff did not do it in the way that, for example, I didn't know how half the boxes got in my garage until I found out staff gathered them up, put them together, and took them to the garage in my home. And all the stuff that was in my home was in filing cabinets that were either locked or able to be locked. It was in my house. It wasn't.
They were wide open in your garage.
Mar-a-Lago in a public place where, and none of it was high classified. Didn't have any of that red stuff on it. You know what I mean? Around the corners, none of that. And so I wish I had paid more attention to how the documents were being moved and where. I thought they were being moved to the archives. I thought all of it was being moved. That's what I thought. Now, what was the last part of your question?
Whether a special counsel should have been appointed in this case and in the case of your rival, former president.
I think a special counsel should have been appointed. And the reason I think a special counsel should have been appointed is because I did not want to be in a position that they looked at Trump and weren't going to look at me, just like they looked at the vice president. And the fact is they made a firm conclusion. I did not break the law. Period. Thank you all very, very much.
That's not the conclusion they came to. And like every staffer just breathed a sigh of relief, but watch. Yeah, look at the guy. Come on, why the fuck isn't he back here yet? And I mean, you could just hear it behind the curtain. No!
I'm of the view, as you know, that the conduct of the response in Gaza, in the Gaza Strip, has been over the top. I think that, as you know, initially the president of Mexico, Sisi, did not want to open up the gate.
The president of Egypt, El-Sisi, by the way.
To get in. I talked to him.
A lot of people got on that right away, too, by the way. The president of Egypt is El-Sisi. In fact, Mexico is nowhere near the Gaza border.
I convinced him to open the gate. I talked to Bibi to open the gate on the Israeli side. I've been pushing really hard to get humanitarian assistance into Gaza. There are a lot of innocent people who are starving, a lot of innocent people who are in trouble and dying, and it's got to stop, number one. Number two, I was also in a position that I'm the guy that made the case that we have to do much more to increase the amount of material going in, including fuel, including other items. I've been on the phone with the Qataris, I've been on the phone with the Egyptians, I've been on the phone with the Saudis to get as much aid as we possibly can into Gaza. There are innocent people, innocent women and children who are also in badly in need of help. And so that's what we're pushing. And I'm pushing very hard now to deal with this hostage ceasefire because, I've been working tirelessly in this deal. How can I say this without revealing it? To lead to a sustained pause in the fighting, in the actions taking place in the Gaza Strip. And because I think if we can get the delay for that, the initial delay.
This entire press conference is to try to prove that Biden is fully within his faculties, knows what's going on, and doesn't trail off in the middle of a sentence. 3 minutes in, he forgets where the rosary was purchased that his son had. In the midst of saying that he never forgets anything about his son's death. And now it's just, he's stumbling and tripping over his words again. This was a fucking nightmare for the Democrats. And they know it. That's part of the reason, again, why we go back and we see an X like this. Where, yes, they tried to push up and astroturf the fact that Trump is not well. All right, that is enough video for now. Let's talk to DeSantis. If Biden is too senile to stand trial, he should be removed by a 25th Amendment. Honestly, yeah, he should. Florida man Ron DeSantis ripped President Biden's handling of classified material in an interview over the weekend following Robert Hur's report on the matter. Florida man made the remarks during an interview with Mark Levine after Hur's report at the conclusion of his criminal investigation into Biden said that Biden willfully retained and disclosed classified materials. DeSantis suggested the notion that Biden was too senile to stand trial means that he should not be viewed as competent enough to have the U.S.'s nuclear codes, and the 25th should be used to remove Biden from office if he really is not mentally capable. But the problem with that, of course, is called President Harris. I legitimately agree with RDS's assessment of the situation, while also completely understanding the fact that we're fucked if they go through with this thing. And, you know, at that point, we've not just got incompetence of the White House, but we've got cackling incompetence. She'll stand there and laugh and cackle while she pushes the little red button. And I don't know if that terrifies the hell out of you. It terrifies the crap out of me. The LA Times also trying to put some copium with this one. Letter said the editor, I am a psychiatrist. Lawyers shouldn't be assessing Biden's cognitive ability. I hate to tell you this. Your lawyer, number one, has access to a number of different psychiatrists out there who can come out here and give the information that they need to pursue whether or not something is worth pursuing. If a special counsel doesn't have a psychiatrist on speed dial, I don't know how that person ever got to the point of special counsel, or even a prosecutor at that point. Of course you're going to have experts in the field come back out and assess your decision in things. DOJ Special Counsel Robert Hur has training in neither psychiatry nor neurology. I'm pretty sure he knows somebody who does. Yet he included an assessment of Biden's cognitive functioning in his report, declining to bring charges for mishandling classified information. Again, you come back out and push this, and the end result of what you're trying to push is put him in front of the grand jury and get him on the stand. Memory assessment is a complex task and cannot be undertaken over 5 hours in interviews with attorneys. If Hur had his data that suggested Biden might be cognitively impaired, his responsibility was to halt the interview and request an emergency assessment. He would have needed to advise Vice President Harris to consider removing Biden's presidential authority. He did not. Biden functioned effectively as president. Well, that's probably not a true statement either. All of us, regardless of age, might have difficulty remembering events from a decade ago that were not central to our lives. Right. But the death of your child is central to your life. Having no legal case against Biden, Hur put forth an explanation for not pursuing an indictment. No, that's not what happened. Sidney Weissman, MD, Highland Park, Illinois. And we get more cope. But I'm going to tell you right now, with this last one here, and I'm going to skip this one from the Hill, because we know that Trump thinks that he should be charged. And in a perfect world, he wouldn't. But we're not in a perfect world. We're in a world that's determined by ideology above all else. If Bill Maher is telling you as a Democrat to get rid of your front runner for presidency, you actually might want to listen to him. Bill Maher pushes Democrats to dump Biden at DNC convention. From the Daily Wire News. Bill Maher, host of Real Time, said during the show this week that Democrats need to consider dumping President Biden at the Democratic National Convention this summer if they want to beat former President Trump and maintain control of the White House. Maher's remarks come after Biden held a press conference on Thursday in response to Special Counsel Hur's findings and flubbed it. Do we have video of that? Yes, we do. So let's just listen to Bill. Let's see what he's got to say.
He did not run on a promise not to run again, but he did run on a big hint.
Yeah.
He said, I see myself as a bridge.
Right.
That's collapsing.
Yeah.
No. But I see myself as a bridge. I read that as one term.
Uh-huh.
Okay? And I guess the question now is it too late? And I don't think it is, because I still think you can do it at the convention. And people have said to me, oh, that's ridiculous. They'll look like nothing. Nobody gives a fuck what you do at the convention. They'd be thrilled if they did it the day before the election.
When Bill Maher is telling you that you're going to get smoked, I hate to tell you this. This is a guy that's got the finger on the pulse of the independents. You know, a lot of the people that are coming out here and basically being blue MAGA and telling us that Biden can't do anything wrong are full-on partisan and think that every Democratic decision is the right one just based on the fact that there's a D after the name. I've listened to Maher before. I think Bill Maher is an asshole. But I also legitimately think he knows what's going on. I don't care for him, but I respect his ability to have his finger on the pulse of the independent. The Democratic-leaning independent especially. So, take that for what you will. We've got to talk about the Senate bill. AKA selling us down the river. And Mogwai has joined us. Apparently his shrink can kick my shrink's ass, but that's probably pretty easy because I don't have a shrink. There are a few people that suggest that I should have one, but I do not have one. My most recent ex-girlfriend being one of them. We all know Biden was having doubts of dementia. Now he is in more of a fog than the main protagonist in the Silent Hill games. Have not played those, so I don't necessarily know that reference. The Biden Super Bowl video had so many cuts in it, I thought he was a teen goth chick. Dark. We're going to talk about that too later. I've got his Super Bowl ad and I've got RFK's. So let's get through this, the Senate selling us down the river. And then we'll go do those ones. Senate gets closer to passing a $95 billion foreign aid package from Daniel Chaitin. The Democrat-led Senate pressed ahead on Sunday with a $95 billion foreign aid package that dropped a controversial border security and immigration reform deal that was originally included in it. Senators voted 40 to 53 to defeat a motion from Mike Lee, which he said was meant to facilitate the consideration of amendments, after which lawmakers again broke the 60-vote filibuster threshold to a 67-27 cloture vote, setting the stage for what could be a final vote this week. The legislation aims to provide funds to Ukraine, Israel, Taiwan, and other foreign priorities, including humanitarian aid, and excludes border security provisions put together by a bipartisan group of negotiators that resulted in a hybrid bill that was ultimately rejected by a group of Republicans and leftist senators last week. I've got a major question for you guys here. Do you not understand the people that you're supposed to be representing? Do you remember why the border security bill failed? It's because it had too much of this shit in it. Like it or not, the American people are actually getting sick of funding every foreign world war and world policing every third world country in this world. Although there may yet be amendments taken up for consideration, Lee warned that offerings from himself and other GOP senators, such as amendments that would seek to tighten asylum laws, require proof of citizenship to vote, and make other changes to beef up border security and immigration laws, may not even get a shot. Commenting on his motion to table being defeated on Sunday, Lee said, "What that means is that we've now been shut out of the fair and open amendment process that was promised, and after the vote to bust the filibuster, this closes debate and virtually assures passage in the Senate. Only the House can stop this now, and it sounds like they're going to." By the way, worth noting, Bernie Sanders voted against this piece of shit. I'm telling you, people in red states, with Republican senators. When Bernie Sanders is the same person in the room, you guys need to review your senators. Like, stat. I'm sure Rand Paul wouldn't have gone with this. I know that he's in the House, but I'm sorry, Rand is in the Senate. It's Massey I was thinking of. Wow. I need to start getting more sleep. I'm starting to lose my memory like Joe Biden. Come on, man. Speaker Johnson, though, pretty much says he's going to kill this. Looks like we've actually got some live coverage. And this is past the Senate now. And the House is convening, hopefully to kill this thing. From the Hill, Speaker Johnson fires warning shots as Senate prepares to vote on Ukraine aid. So this is prior to what's happening live. Let's check in on that. Okay, it says watch live, but we have no live feed. Oh, the House is adjourned until 10 a.m. Wednesday. So apparently it's not live anymore. Michael Schnell reporting on this one, though. Speaker Johnson fired a warning shot at the Senate's foreign aid package on Monday, criticizing the $95.3 billion supplemental as the upper chamber inches closer to a final vote on the legislation. In a statement, Johnson slammed the package for excluding border security provisions. The Senate's foreign aid package is silent on the most pressing issue facing our country and suggested he will not bring it to the floor for a vote if it clears the upper chamber. Johnson, you can bring this to the floor. I can tell you that right off the bat, you can bring this one to the floor. Do you know why? This bill that you have here, not only will you get the vast majority of your caucus on board with it, there will be probably about 12 to 14 representatives on the Republican side that will vote for this. But because of all the aid that's going to Israel, 3/4 of the House Progressive Caucus will also shoot this down. This is a dead on arrival bill, even if you do bring it to a vote. In the absence of having received any single border policy change from the Senate, the House will have to continue to work on its own to will on these important matters, Johnson wrote. America deserves better than the Senate's status quo. The criticism of Johnson came minutes after the Senate advanced the foreign aid supplemental, which includes funding for Ukraine, Israel, and Indo-Pacific allies, in a series of 3 procedural votes. The Speaker's Monday night statement marks the second time this month that he has thrown cold water on a foreign aid package crafted in the Senate. Good. I still don't agree with him on 3/4 of his agenda, but when he does right, I'm going to praise him. I'm not a Democrat or a MAGA Republican. I don't look at everybody and say, you are all evil all the time, or you are all good all the time. When you do good, I'll praise you. When you suck, which is what Mike Johnson does most of the time, I'll tell you that you suck. The Mogwai says another bill with a ton of pork. So much pork, there's a spider in the Capitol spelling words. Try to save it. I like that. That is great. That is fantastic. I thought they were voting to impeach right now. No, they did that last week. We talked about that last week. And it failed. So, we'll see what happens with this one, but I'm pretty sure this one is dead. Even if you bring it to the floor. Breaking news that was happening while we were on air last week. Ronna McDaniel has offered to step down following South Carolina's primary, which is, by the way, I think in a couple weeks. GOP primary. February 24th. In 11 days. In 11 days, you will go to the polls. And the Mogwai I know will be among you. And Nikki Haley will lose her home state. And I will laugh. I will laugh very hard. Jeff Zeleny, Caitlin Collins, and Daniel Strauss reporting. Ronna McDaniel has offered to leave her position following the South Carolina primary later this month to allow former President Trump to install his own party chair, two party advisors told CNN. She also discussed those plans with Trump, according to a person familiar with the matter. Huzzah! Keith Schipper told CNN in a statement Tuesday night that nothing has changed. This will be decided after South Carolina. McDaniel's offer to resign comes as tensions between Trump, the frontrunner, and the RNC have heightened in recent days, and as the former president's team has begun quietly floating names to replace her. Michael Whatley of North Carolina Chairman Michael Whatley and South Carolina Party Chairman Drew McKissick are among the names being floated by Trump's team, according to two sources familiar with internal discussions. Now, I know, of course, we're going to hear from all kinds of people, but Trump endorsed, he endorsed Ronna Romney McDaniel. So she's his responsibility. That doesn't change the fact that she sucked. I don't know. Maybe I look at it differently because I'm not a Trump supporter. In fact, I have a video written up. I haven't recorded it yet, but I have a video written up on things that I would have to see prior to October in order to vote for Trump. I'm not going to do a last-minute shift like I did last time through. There is a specific agenda of what Trump could do, and I would vote for him again. It is very specific, and I don't think he's going to fulfill it. I would do it. But it's none of what I'm going to request is going to happen, so it's kind of moot to come out and say. But I don't look at Trump and say that this guy walks on water. I think most of his decisions sucked. He fell into a very, very fortunate situation and did very well with what did happen for him. But he was mostly inept on what he did, especially when it came to the spending. That's always been my biggest disdain with the Trump presidency is his spending. And yes, this was even before the COVID spending. So I look at Ronna McDaniel, who went through block funding for MAGA candidates in easily winnable races and worked alongside Mitch McConnell to do so. And when I hear that she's on her way out the door, the only thing that I can really think of is Whatley, who serves as general counsel of the RNC, has a strong relationship with Trump. Even so, the former president could not unilaterally install him. While Trump can give his endorsement, which would strengthen a contender's chances, only RNC committee members can elect McDaniel's replacement as chair, but it kind of does look like they're leaning towards Whatley, too. We'll talk about that in just a sec. McKissick and Whatley did not return requests for comment from CNN late on Tuesday. I would not mind having a party that I could vote for again, by the way. I really wouldn't. From the Associated Press, Trump wants to install new RNC leadership, including his daughter-in-law as co-chair. No more nepotism. And this, by the way, is another reason that I probably can't vote for him. Because of the nepotism, because he wants to pass it all along to his family. Now, I know a lot of my friends would like that, but I would not. From Steve Peoples and Jill Colvin. Trump called Monday night for leadership change at the Republican National Committee in an attempt to install a new slate of loyalists, including his daughter-in-law. I love the editorialization of the AP that's supposed to be this completely what's the word, impartial outlet, and like look at the language that they use right here. A new slate of loyalists, including his daughter-in-law, which I don't agree with his daughter-in-law, but like anybody who Trump is going to put in is he wants to put him in because they suck his dick. They're a loyalist. Fuck off. Trump is calling for McDaniel to be replaced by Whatley, the North Carolina GOP chairman, the new co-chair. Trump said should be his daughter-in-law, Laura Trump. Again, not against the idea of Whatley, but leave the Trumps away from the RNC. We've got the one that's going to be on the top, most likely going to be the president again, but leave the rest of them out of it. Good God. Just a little bit of election news before we go on to the Super Bowl, which was this past weekend. And we've got a few things off of that. From the Daily Wire, Dem leaders push to make abortion the pivotal issue of 2024, which I am not even remotely surprised by that. Because wherever they make it the pivotal issue, they actually win. Even though Janet Protasewicz doesn't give a flying fuck about whether or not you can slaughter your baby in the womb, she can pay lip service and get all the election laws changed. Zach Jewell reporting. The landmark Supreme Court decision reversing Roe will be more than 2 years old by the time voters head to the polls for 2024. But Democrats are pushing to make abortion a top-of-ballot issue for Americans. Well, they've been doing that since 1965. Democratic Party leaders who gathered at the Lansdowne Resort in Northern Virginia for their annual strategy retreat this week said abortion rights will be the most important issue for Democrat candidates as they seek to undo what one party leader called MAGA abortion bans. The Hill reported, Catherine Clark, the Democratic House Whip, told reporters the fight over abortion will be a priority issue for party for years to come. Because it's all that they have. Economy. They can sit here and peacock and parrot over the fact that they've improved the economy all they want. People are taking out second jobs and people are buying groceries on credit. I finally broke down and had to do that this week. I have done very well, which, okay, I will confess that I did a couple times when I first moved, but that was because moving costs. In normal day-to-day attire at this point, this week was the first week I've ever bought groceries on credit. People are taking out credit to buy groceries. People are taking out second jobs to buy groceries. This economy is not doing well, folks. Foreign policy, they can't run on that. They fucked that up in a hurry. They can't even run on being anti-war anymore. Because they started 2 new wars under Joe Biden and they're looking really hard at starting a third. Healthcare, they've abandoned that. The only thing they do with healthcare is pay lip service to the fact of, insert name of Republican here is going to take away your healthcare and cause you to die. That's literally all they have to that. The only thing they have left to run on is abortion. And it shows. And they're going to try to do it. Will it win? I don't know. Honestly, whatever it is that they do, the most effective thing for them, if they go to do that, is if Lindsey Graham sees that Trump is rising in the polls again and comes out and says, hey man, I talked to Trump himself and I think that we're going to have a national abortion ban. As soon as he's in, I'm going to propose it and Trump is going to sign it right away. Come on, Iran, you have nukes. Let's fuck with them. Well, there's going to be some fuck around and some find out. Alright, let's talk about Super Bowl commercials. But not the regular Super Bowl commercials that we all know and love, like the Budweiser horses, or every single car company out there, or anything else like that. But because this is a mostly political show, we're going to talk about the political ones. Including one from our friend Joe Biden, who who's calling out shrinkflation that I've been calling out since he took office. Yes, Biden wants to tell you about corporate greed and shrinkflation. This guy, who printed dollars upon dollars upon dollars and devalued the currency to do so. Let's listen.
The Super Bowl Sunday. If you're anything like me, you like to be surrounded by a snack or two while watching the big game. You know, when buying snacks for the game, you might have noticed one thing. Sports drinks bottles are smaller. The bag of chips has fewer chips, but they're still charging you just as much. And as an ice cream lover, what makes me the most angry is that ice cream cartons have actually shrunk in size, but not in price. I've had enough of what they call shrinkflation. It's a ripoff. Some companies are trying to pull a fast one by shrinking the products little by little and hoping you won't notice. Give me a break. The American public is tired of being played for suckers. I'm calling on companies to put a stop to this. Let's make sure businesses do the right thing now. The Super Bowl Sunday.
Okay, but you've jacked you've jacked down the value of the dollar. So they have one of two choices. Shrink the product or jack the prices through the roof. You don't have any other option at this point, dude. The Daily Wire reporting Biden slammed over shrinkflation video posted on Super Bowl Sunday. Biden was slammed on Super Bowl Sunday over a video he posted to the social media ahead of the game that blamed corporations for shrinkflation. The remarks from Biden, which he posted from his own official government X, which is, by the way, a violation of the Hatch Act, comes after years of high interest rates that were triggered in large part when the Democratic-controlled House and Senate passed his American Rescue Plan during the first months of his presidency. Biden's video generated widespread mockery and pushback on X, where it has viewed by millions of times. Imagine how little respect you must have for voters to try this, said Charles C.W. Cook. This is insane, said RCP President Tom Bevan. Biden is getting some really terrible advice. Seattle-based conservative radio host Jason Rantz posted on X. Biden couldn't do a Super Bowl interview because it would have been past his bedtime, but he did have time to post a propaganda video. Hoping you won't realize shrinkflation is a result of inflation courtesy of Bidenomics. Well, when they're right, they're right. But I think the one that cost the most people's attention, especially in the DNC, by the way, is this one. I was not watching the Super Bowl. I was listening to it, and my tablet was sitting over here while I was making those 3 big jars of wine that are on the counter, bubbling away right now. But I stopped and listened and watched when I heard first the song and then this. RFK's Super Bowl ad, which he swears up and down was not him. Let's watch.
For the content of this advertisement.
36 seconds of lie, by the way. Kennedy is not young enough to do. He's old enough to know better, and yet he still does anyway. But not only that, that is the same song that JFK used in the 60s. Now, he did not, according to everybody else out here, put this out himself. This was, in fact, his super PAC that did this, which he is not supposed to have any contact with. Right. From Axios, RFK Jr. Super PAC echoes his uncle with $7 million Super Bowl ad. No, that's not an echo. That is a full-on fucking ripoff of his uncle. Aaron Doherty reporting. A super PAC backing RFK Jr.'s presidential bid ran a Super Bowl ad on Sunday that mirrored a 1960 presidential campaign ad for his uncle, JFK. It's an extraordinarily expensive investment, but the ad ran just before halftime and generated online buzz for the long-shot presidential candidate seeking to boost his national name recognition. There's nobody in this country that doesn't know the name Kennedy. The ad tapped into a captive audience of Super Bowl viewers, as many Americans are tuning out of political news. Yeah, that is one thing I've noticed too, and pulling some views at this point. I look at my reach compared to a year ago when I first was here, sitting down in this apartment, and it's dropped off because people are getting exhausted from it. Axios is right about that. The ad cost $7 million, American Values confirmed to Axios. The panicked DC power brokers are working overtime to keep Kennedy off the ballot because they know he can and will end their culture of greed and corruption, American Values co-chair Tony Lyons said in a statement. The DC power brokers are working to keep a Kennedy off the ballot because he thinks that a Kennedy can stop a culture of greed and corruption. Let that sink in for just a second. Like his uncle and father, Kennedy is a corruption fighter, and it's no wonder DNC is trying every old trick and inventing new tricks to stop him. Many members of Kennedy's family have condemned his decision to run as an independent presidential candidate, fearing he could siphon off votes from Biden in the general. Yeah, that's the other funny part, and the propagandists are right off this one. I saw a post from Little Harry Sisson who pointed out, and actually correctly, the Kennedy family's all in for Biden. Except for this guy. They don't want him to be president. At least not this term. I hope RFK isn't going to Dallas in a convertible, just saying. I actually heard that the Biden campaign, with a generous donation from the Clinton Foundation, custom ordered a Lincoln convertible for him to tour around in the country in. I believe that as much as I would take an Uber from Ted Kennedy. I know where you're going with that one. The DNC sued Kennedy last week, alleging that the long-shot presidential candidate engaged in a ballot access scheme to illegally coordinate with his super PAC, which is a distinct possibility as well. And he has bent the knee. RFK apologizes to the family over Super Bowl ad, claims he had no involvement. Right. RFK Jr. argued that the group responsible for the ad, the American Values Super PAC, did not consult with him or his campaign when making the ad. RFK Jr., who is running for president and is an independent, nevertheless pinned the video at the top of his profile on X. Yeah, okay. Alright, what do we got left? We got probably about 10, well, we could actually go a little bit longer because I don't have a lot in the things I like and things that I hate window. So we'll probably get through all this tonight. But let's talk Nevada. Nick Sorter with the announcement just in. Nikki Haley has lost the Nevada primary. Who did Nikki Haley lose the Nevada primary to? None of these candidates. Guys, Nikki Haley lost to nobody. There is a God, which, I mean, I never actually stopped believing that, but... And he's made his face and his glory known that Nikki Haley has lost to literally nobody. Mogwai, you've got your finger on the pulse. How's she going to do in her home state? I'm genuinely curious. And it's not even by a little bit either. Now, there were not a lot of people who voted in this primary because it's not sanctioned by the RNC. The RNC is not giving any delegates awarded based on the fact. Let's see, that's about 40,000, 42,000, about 43, no, there's a total right there. I'm trying to do mental math in my head and I just have to scroll down a little bit. 43,106 people voted in the Nevada primary. And Nikki Haley got curb stomped by none of these candidates. There is a God. I do want to come back over to this one though. I closed out this this tab here. Just because for statistics. We have the total. 43,106 votes. 59,984 people voted for Trump. 540 people voted for Ryan Binkley. So, now, roughly on this one, I will say, there's probably going to be some crossover between the two. It's going to be hard to get a statistical idea of where the differential is because a lot of the people who are in this group are also in this group. There was no law that said that you can participate in both the primary and the caucus. But give or take, if I do my math correctly, that means that was a 73% landslide for Trump. If we hold the numbers correctly and make the assumption that if there was a vote, the same people would have voted for Trump versus Haley. Because that's 59,984 over 14,328. So given the differential between the two of them, that's about 75,000 votes and 60,000 give or take for Trump. Yeah, that's just about, I'm sorry, that's higher than that. That's about 78%. That is a landslide. Nikki Haley is fucked, and she is still staying in. Our resident South Carolinian says, Trump will win, but I'm interested on how she will do. I think the jump over vote will be big. Yeah, I want to see what the statistics are. I thought I had something for Larry Hogan too, but all I have is this one here from Politico. Let me see if I can grab one for Larry Hogan, because I don't really want to talk much about Trump and Hogan will reshape the race. I just want to talk about the fact that he got in. There are not a lot of people talking about this though. I think that's the one that failed to archive. Let me see if I can re-archive this one. Or if it's been re-archived. No, it didn't archive. We'll save this one for later. It's starting to archive. Let's put this one over here for now. So a little bit of corruption coming out of the state that I used to live in, NBC Boston reporting. Healy nominates former partner Gabrielle Wolohojian for open Supreme Court. I'm sorry, SJC. What is? I don't know what SJC is. I know I should have read this one ahead. But for an open SJC seat, Colin A. Young reporting. Maura Healey, governor of Massachusetts, on Wednesday nominated appeals court judge Gabrielle Wolohojian to fill the vacancy on the Supreme Court, Supreme Judicial Court, that's what it is, so it's their Supreme Court. elevating to the state's highest court a longtime appellate judge, who is also the governor's former domestic partner. Boy, that would not fly anywhere else in this country. Healy's choice to pick a former partner for the lofty perch on the SJC raised eyebrows around the Beacon Hill on Wednesday and led to calls from the Republican Party for the governor to withdraw the nomination. Yeah, I would say so. I would say that's probably a good idea. The governor defended the choice on Wednesday, saying she is proud of nominating someone who is so deserving and so qualified, and it is what the Commonwealth deserves. What, a question on whether or not this person was qualified or got the job because she used to lick your clam? I hate to put such a blunt point on it, but that's legitimately what the question is going to be all the time. There's a reason that I railed against Lara Trump being on the RNC based on nepotism, because, you know, shit like this happens. Wolahogian was nominated to the appeals court by Deval Patrick in 2007, and she sat on more than 2,700 appeals and authored more than 900 decisions. Since taking the bench in February of 2008, she serves as the chair of the Supreme Judicial Court's advisory committees on the rules of the appellate procedure and of the appellate court's committees on judicial mentoring and training education, policies and practices, and en banc rehearings. Oh, can I get away with that one? I think I can get away with that one. The Mogwai asks, how good does that strap-on game that it gets you a Supreme Court spot? Apparently pretty good. And again, I've always been partially deferential to the idea that sometimes a person can nominate the best person for the job based on the fact that they have a close personal relationship with that person. But the problem that I've always had with that is not the fact that that's whether or not that's the right person for the job. It's the fact that it's so easy to be questioned. That it puts every decision that that person makes into question. That's why we have rules in corporations against nepotism. That's why we're actually having the conversation about Fani Willis right now in Georgia, because of the nepotistic relationship that she had with the guy that she was screwing in the middle of the prosecution. And suddenly every decision that she makes will be called into question for this. Honestly, if I was Wolahogian, I'd be pissed at Healy. You've put every decision I've made on the appellate court in jeopardy by appointing me to this because of our previous relationship. Now, they're massholes, they're not going to see it that way. The Mogwai is currently trying to find one that I can't read out loud, and I can do that one too. Well, what you got the Supreme Court spot? Oh, well, my tongue. I mean, I'm pretty sure that when this first came out, I said something that was even more terse and in the gutter than that. So you're going to have to do better than that if you want to get me to blush. All right. While we are waiting for Business Insider, let's take another one here from NPR. Hawaii's High Court cites The Wire in its ruling on gun rights. This comes to the NPR from the Associated Press, but to disseminate it, you still need to hit that donate button because NPR needs your donation. They are only 10% government funded, and they need your help to make sure that they can put out the propaganda that all guns are bad unless they're held by the government. So, hit that donate button again. NPR is never printing reality. National Progressive Radio, let's see what it is they have to say. A ruling by Hawaii's High Court saying that a man can be prosecuted for carrying a gun in public without a permit cites a crime drama TV series, The Wire, and invokes the spirit of aloha in an apparent rebuke of a U.S. Supreme Court decision that expanded gun rights nationwide. The thing about the old days The old days, the unanimous Hawaii Supreme Court ruling issued Wednesday said, borrowing a quote from Season 4, Episode 3 of the HBO series, to express the culture from the founding of the country shouldn't dictate the contemporary life. Authored by Justice Todd Edens, the opinion goes on to say the spirit of aloha clashes with federally mandated lifestyle that lets citizens walk around with deadly weapons during day-to-day activities. Okay, the word federally mandated and lets citizens are two different things. Hawaii, what you're doing is a mandate. What the federal government is doing is saying, we don't give a fuck. You've got your priorities backwards here, dude. The ruling stems from a 2017 case against Christopher Wilson, who had a loaded pistol in his right front waistband when police were called after a Maui landowner reported seeing a group of men on his property at night. The handgun was unregistered in Hawaii, and Wilson had not obtained or applied for a permit to own the gun, the ruling said. Wilson told police he legally bought the gun in Florida in 2013. Wilson's first motion to dismiss the charges argued that prosecuting him for possession of a firearm for self-defense violated his right to bear arms under the Second Amendment of the Constitution. It was denied. Then in 2022, a U.S. Supreme Court decision known as New York State Rifle and Pistol Association versus Bruin upended gun laws nationwide, and you can already hear the propaganda dripping out of this, including in Hawaii, which has had some of the strictest gun laws in the country and some of the lowest rates of gun violence. Just as the Bruin decision came out, Wilson filed a second motion to dismiss the case. A judge granted the dismissal, and the state appealed. Ben Lowenthal of the Hawaii Public Defender's Office, Wilson's attorney, said Thursday his office is taking stock of our options, including seeking review from the U.S. Supreme Court. Wilson, here are your options. Get the fuck out of Hawaii. Fugitive if you have to. Because even if you win this case, they're going to find a way to persecute you over this. I understand, by the way, Hawaii is beautiful. Hawaii is amazing. I'd like to visit Hawaii one day, without a firearm in my hand, obviously. For obvious reasons. I would like to visit the state, though, one day. See some of the sights. As I grow older and get more into history, I get more interested in things like Pearl Harbor and things like that. But I'm going to tell you right off the bat, number one, as a guest in the state, I will abide by their rules because, well, I want to come home at some point. Looks like it's a nice place to visit, but I wouldn't want to live there. That's number one. Number two, it's just a temporary thing for me. Yeah, Wilson, how's your swimming skills? Can you build a raft that's potentially seafaring? The ruling reflects a culture in Hawaii that's very resistant to change and a judiciary and government that has been recalcitrant accepting Bruin, said Alan Beck, an attorney not involved in Wilson's case. That's your option right there, dude. Get out of Hawaii. Let them subjugate their citizens a little bit more and see how many of them take their tax dollars and leave. So apparently, Insider has found a way to block the archiver, because that's the second time. That's the same thing that happened to me the last time. Like, I set this all up and I set this to archive last night, and I got a not found yet. So I'm going to be experimenting with Insider to see if they've found a way to block archive, because you should be archiving everything. Absolutely. So that's going to be some experimenting going on there. We'll talk about Larry Hogan next week. All right, we got just a couple more here, then we'll do things I like and things that I hate. 104.5 WOKV. Jacksonville's News and Talk. History of Communism Bill draws questions if topics are appropriate for young Florida students. William Clayton, Action News Jacksonville, reports proposals circulating through Florida's legislative chambers have ignited a debate over the potential inclusion of lessons on the history of communism in the state's school's curriculum, with questions swirling around introducing such a complex topics to students as young as kindergarten. Under the current framework, Florida students aren't introduced to lessons on communism until 7th grade. However, SB 1264 and HB 1349, currently under consideration, aim to alter this landscape, potentially paving the way for discussions on communism to begin as early as kindergarten. The Senate Education Pre-K-12 Committee recently greenlit the Senate's version of the bill, which outlines the formation of a task force tasked with reportedly refining education on communism. Jay Collins, the bill's sponsor, highlighted the broad scope of the proposed curriculum. See, this here is where the pendulum goes too far. Now, I agree that communism should be taught in schools. But we should actually have the reality of communism over the fact that it's killed millions of its own constituents throughout history. That's the lesson that communism should be, but this is not a kindergarten subject either. Adult sexuality and what they do with their partner is not a discussion for kindergarten any more than Lenin going out and killing the revolutionaries that brought forth the communist revolution. Neither of those things belong in a kindergarten class. And furthermore, and I have always harped on this, none of this belongs in Tallahassee. I have always been adamant about local education control, not state education control. I have always been adamant about that. But no, this is not. This is, your propaganda is going too far in the other direction. And Ron, are you in on this? I understand that you don't have anything to lose at this point because you're not running for the presidency anymore, and you can't run for governor again. But is this your doing, or are you doing this? The Mogwai says, Tommy, the state makes me tell you sharing is caring. Now you need to give Molly 3/4 of your cookie. Okay, kiddos, it's time to learn the proper way to tuck. Tuck it in. I would go a little bit earlier than 7th grade if it was me on communism, by the way. I would go like to 5th grade. Start introducing the topics and the devastation of communism. And the last one. We'll take this one from NPC News. We started with NPC News, we'll end with NPC News. Because a lot of people have been pointing out the fact that, hey, while we were in the middle of watching the Super Bowl, Israel started bombing the shit out of Gaza. Well, NPC News reports Israel rescues 2 hostages. IDF launches airstrikes in Rafah despite global concern. NPC News, what we know, the IDF said it rescued 2 hostages, Fernando Simon Marman and Louis Har, from Rafah in an overnight mission, which is good. Rescuing hostages is always good. Prime Minister Netanyahu, though, has pledged safe passage for civilian population of Rafah, where more than 1 million Palestinians were crowded into shelters. A planned Israeli ground assault has spread fear in southern Gaza and fueled mounting global alarm. Netanyahu told ABC that an attack on Rafah was key to defeating Hamas, but it's unclear where people packed into the city and pressed against the Egyptian border might go to find safety. Well, spoiler alert, they didn't. 6-year-old Hind Rajab has been found dead 12 days after she made a desperate plea for help in a call with an emergency dispatcher. The problem that we have with this, Israel in October had the optics war by the ass. Hamas had launched its air force in gliders over the wall, started kidnapping and killing Israelis on their own soil, taking hostages and pulling an all-out frontal assault. And in October, Israel had the optics war, and they did well. But they continue this cram the innocents into another area and then bomb it, and give them nowhere else to go, and then bomb it, and flood the tunnels and then bomb them. The Gaza Strip is all but annexed at this point. You are losing the optics war, and you are losing the optics war, by the way, with normies, who had your back right from the beginning. You had a golden opportunity to turn the world to your cause, and you're starting to lose your grip on this. I was with your cause. Every single time I read one of these stories, I become less and less impressed with Israel, and more apt to condemn them for what they're doing off of this. Mahomes throws a missile through the strip, and boom. Alright, and that's what we have here for the day. Let's do a couple things I like and a couple things that I hate, and we'll head out of here for the night. So, as we close the show, every week, number one, we look at the Ferengi Rules of Acquisition, which we've got a short one today from the episode where everybody unionized in DS9. And then I do a couple things I like and a few things that I hate. And I've actually got a pretty short list here. It looks longer, but these three are all actually in the same story. And I'm going to paraphrase it instead of going over it entirely. But let's start with the Rules of Acquisition. The 263rd Rule of Acquisition, which there's new 262nd Rule of Acquisition, in canon, or beta canon anyway. Never allow doubt to tarnish your lust for latinum. If you've got a gut feeling, and you think you can make your move on it and make your profit, go for it. This is a story of courage. It was used in the idea that Quark was going to bust up the Union because, well, it was cutting in on his lust for latinum. And I believe it was Brunt that said that in the episode, the 263rd Rule of Acquisition. But again, I mean, if you've got the opportunity. I don't know if another winery or another distillery will sell in Wisconsin. But I'm going to try. I can either sit here and say, oh man, I had this idea, I could have made money off it, I wish I'd have done it. Right now, I wish I'd have done it sooner. I wish I'd have done it, I wish I'd have done something with it, I wish I'd have done this, I wish I'd have done that. Or we can get out there and start to do it. I said on the New Year's Eve episode, when I was streaming, that's what I'm going to do this year. Whether or not I move to a new place or not, which, God, I hope I move into a new place this year because this place is a closet. Whether or not I move into a house or not, I can sit here and wait for the time to be right forever, or I can sit out here and take the bull by the ass and start up a distillery. So, you guys probably heard a little bit of the pop, pop, pop of the water locks bubbling over there. I'm sitting again, I'm watching them go here. I had doubts for a year that I had the space, the ability to do so and anything, and I just stopped having doubts and did it. So, no, never allow doubt to tarnish your lust for latinum. Let's do a couple things I like and a couple things that I hate. Things that I like. So, I bought a buttload of Chinese food last Friday. I took an order for everybody and put it all on my card, and everybody gave me cash at work. I had over almost $80 Chinese food order. And the menu processor that took the order and transmitted it to the Chinese food restaurant rewarded me for spending that much money through them and gave me a free month of Hulu. Which is something that I've wanted to purchase for a while because I want to watch King of the Hill, and that's on Hulu and nowhere else. You can't even buy the individual seasons on Amazon anymore because Hulu took it over and blocked it from Amazon. I have like 3 seasons of King of the Hill on Amazon because I already purchased them. They can't block them that way. But I cannot purchase any more after the fact because of Hulu's death grip on King of the Hill. But since I've got a free month, and I'm probably going to continue after the month, I've been looking to see how much King of the Hill I can watch in a month. I'm already through season 2. And this was last Friday that this happened. Was it last Friday? No, it was 2 Fridays ago. I'm sorry. It was 2 Fridays ago that it happened. So I'm 2 weeks into my trial. Week and a half into my trial. And I'm enjoying it very much, but I forgot how much I love King of the Hill. Like, I've been watching reviews of it. I've been watching Review to Death and some other YouTube reviews of episodes, but I've not watched actual episodes. This show is fantastic. If you have slept on King of the Hill, or you think it's not your style or anything else, which I don't think most people listening to this or watching this are going to be in that boat, go check it out. Or if it's been a few years, go check it out again. It is just as good as I remember. It is amazing. And I've got one of the Fox season trailers that we can watch for King of the Hill.
There's only one place to see more King of the Hill than you ever imagined.
He's a squatter.
The place is Fox, where every Sunday you can watch for all new episodes.
I've got some good news, but I want you to promise you're not gonna squeal like a girl.
Come to the place where fathers and sons share a bond.
You leave your face open, you're gonna get popped. See? See? Pop, pop.
I wish I had a son to kick me in the nuts. Be careful what you wish for.
Discover traditions passed down from generation to generation.
Well, now where's my nudie channel? Hold it. I think this one's ready to take her top off.
That's Diane Sawyer, Dad.
She's not gonna take her top off, is she?
Maybe you could take him out for some guy time.
I don't know, he'll want to go to a strip club, and he always tips the girls to put their whatnots on my head.
Experience a celebration of friends and neighbors.
Oh, hey, hillbillies! Look at my new SUV!
Where are you gonna keep it, smart guy? It doesn't even fit in your garage.
Maybe I'd keep garage in SUV. Kiss my ass. Okay, my turn. Tongue kiss a lizard or take a shower in Bill's bathroom.
Lizard, man.
No, why is the other choice always take a shower in Bill's bathroom?
Explore the innocence of youth.
Guys can shave their legs too? That's very interesting.
Peggy.
Sorry, Dad.
Celebrate the sanctity of marriage.
Me and Dale took a 14-year intimacy break while I saw John Redcorn for migraines. So now it's back like when we were first dating.
Yeah, but I can't take a 14-year break. They'll have sex robots by then, and Hank won't need me.
Come to the place where...
Hey, that might be fact checked true at this point.
It's my joke, I'm gonna tell it. There was this doctor, and then...
That was pretty funny.
There's only one place to see all new episodes of King of the Hill, Sundays on Fox.
No wonder he's an ignoramus.
What did you say?
Ignoramus. It means stupid, you moron.
Oh, I legitimately forgot how good this is. Now, one thing I will point out, if you are new to the series, if you're old hat to the series, you'll remember, or you might have forgot by this point. But the first couple seasons, they still use the gruesome flashaways from Beavis and Butthead. They moved away from... There were a couple dream sequences in later seasons, like when Peggy pretended to be a nun to teach at a Catholic school, and then thought she was going to hell over it. They mostly went away in season 3, but I'm still seeing a lot of them in season 2, so that's one thing to remember for that. But yeah, this is, I mean, it's good old-fashioned family fun, and the cutaways aren't like Family Guy where it's just completely impossible situations. Like everything, they could make a live-action version of King of the Hill, with the exception of the characters never aged over 13 years. They could make a live-action version of King of the Hill, and it would totally hold up. Completely hold up. So, King of the Hill. Go check it out. Other things that I like. Apparently Kamala Harris is so worried about the fact that she might have to go back and take over for old Joe that she got wasted. And then gave a speech. I didn't believe it. I've listened to this video. She's hammered. and not on 100 Acres Distilling product. Shame on you.
I'm pointing to the direction of what I believe is the Capitol. And what needs to happen in terms of people who otherwise have evidenced themselves having a feckless quality to show some courage to reject the false notion that suggests you're either in favor of the Second Amendment or you want to take everyone's guns away. When in fact,
why is she Southern
I
suddenly?
support the Second Amendment, but it's reasonable to say we need an assault weapons ban. It's reasonable to say we need universal background checks, that we need red flag laws. It's reasonable to say that if you want to deal with violence in the community, you also got to understand it's not only about mass shooting situations, which are horrific, and it's about everyday gun violence. I'm pointing to the direction of what I believe.
Like, did she just do a 40 before this? I'm legitimately questioning that, by the way. But she's hammered. One more thing that I like, and then we'll do some things that I hate. California's war on plastic bag use seems to have backfired. Lawmakers are trying again. And this part back here, lawmakers are trying again. I don't like, except for the fact that lawmakers are trying again, and it's going to happen again. A decade ago, when California became the first state in the nation to ban single-use plastic bags, ushering in a wave of anti-plastic legislation from coast to coast. But in the years after California seemingly kicked its plastic grocery sack habit, material recovery facilities and environmental activists noticed a peculiar trend. Plastic bag waste by weight was increasing to unprecedented levels. According to a report by the consumer advocacy group CalPIRG, 157,385 tons of plastic bag waste was discarded in California the year the law passed. By 2022, the tonnage had skyrocketed to 331,072, a 47% jump. Even accounting for an increase in population, the number rose from 4.08 tons per thousand to 5.89 tons per thousand people in 2022. The problem, and by the way, this is why I'm anti-abortion legislation. This is why I am anti-trans drug legislation or anything else, because there will always be a carve-out. For one group or another, there will always be a carve-out somewhere to protect that one special interest. I don't care which party puts the law up. I don't care which party supports the law, which party opposes the law. There will always be a carve-out. Was a section of the law that allowed grocery stores and large retailers to provide thicker, heavier weight plastic bags to consumers for the price of a dime. So you could buy your way. You could offset yourself. It's like a carbon tax credit. You can still pollute, but you have to pay for it. It was a conscious decision to create a pathway for a type of reusable bag that barely existed, said Mark Murray, director of Californians Against Waste, an environmental organization. It was just emerging in the marketplace, but it happened to be made by a couple of California companies, which the manufacturers claimed would certify as being reusable. And yet they didn't reuse them. They paid the dime, and they didn't reuse them. You see where the problem is? And they think, by the way, that this is going to work again. And they're going to do it again, and it's going to fail again. And they're going to find another excuse that it failed again. And I'm going to laugh the second time. Alright, let's do a few things that I hate. The Super Bowl this past weekend, we talked a bit about that. Now, I don't believe the Super Bowl was staged. I don't believe that it was put together in a specific attempt to get Travis Kelce to propose to Taylor Swift on the 50-yard line after the game-winning touchdown or anything else like that. But see, when I see shit like this, it starts to make me wonder if I'm wrong. Luke Beasley X's out unvaccinated football players missed the whole season with an injury. vaccinated football players win the Super Bowl. The propaganda that comes off of something like this. Would you start to question whether or not this was staged if you saw something like this? I would. And of course, they're showing on the left Aaron Rodgers, the unvaccinated football player, which apparently not getting your vaccine means you tear your Achilles tendon. So apparently the holy jab protects against that too. YouTube, this is not medical misinformation, by the way. This is me making fun of the people here. I can't say any more than that because they will ding me for medical misinformation again, and I've already had several episodes of Contemporary taken down for this. And most of what's on the screen I also can't read on YouTube anyway, so it's just when the propaganda comes out like this and they try to make it sound like this. What was at best a complete coincidence. That's where the propaganda machine goes. Going back to the border, something we haven't talked about since last week. But NBC News. The Biden admin blowing a gigantic hole in the notion that they need much more money from the House and Senate to enforce the border bill. The Biden admin is considering an executive action to deter illegal migration at the southern border. Which, yes, by the way, that does mean that they do have the tools to do this already without spending trillions of dollars more money out of our pockets. They can go and enforce the existing law, just like they've been told to do numerous times. And somebody went out and thought that this was a good idea. Alright, I got 3 that are somewhat local here, and I want to just talk about this briefly here. I'm going to read this one from WEAU 13 out of Eau Claire. CFA USD superintendent speaks out on incident at Chippewa Falls Middle School last fall. Lindsay Alawerdi reporting on this one. The Chippewa Falls Area Unified School District superintendent is speaking out about an incident that happened in the middle school several months ago. Jeff Holmes said in a press release that the district determined students were not in jeopardy at any time during the events, and that officials consulted with local law enforcement and maintained police presence. Holmes goes on to say the situation was identified and monitored, student safety was accounted for, the district intervened, and the matter was resolved without incident. What is the incident? Allegedly, a student came in and threatened to kill other students. Now, this hits near and dear to me. And the fact that so many of the parents are pissed off that they didn't find out about this until months and months later pisses me off even more. I don't agree with the sentiment of students running around threatening to kill each other by any stretch of the imagination. But the fact that so many people are mad about this when the Chippewa Falls Area School District did everything right, from what I can see. Now, they have been very tight-lipped about the situation, so there are details that I may not have at this point. I know Crowder's trying to do a deep dive into this one right now, so I may come back next week and issue a retraction of what I'm going to say, and I will come right out and say that that's possibly what's going to happen with this. But one thing with he said, she said in school is a lot of times kids can go back and make up bullshit over students they don't like. And I watched it happen with one of my best friends, who I know full well did not come out and say that he was going to come and shoot up our school. I know full well that he didn't. Because I know that he would not have been able to sit down for the rest of his life if he'd have gone home and actually done that and his parents had found out about it. He was volatile and angry, but he would not have gone to that extreme. And yet that incident hit our local news back at the turn of the millennium when it all happened. And I watched a walkout happen based on a lie. Based on a full-on lie. My friend was taken out of school for his protection because of the rumors that were swirling around that could have caused some of the good old farmer boys to think that he was an actual threat and, take the retaliation against him. But one of the more political members of my class was the one that sat and organized a full walkout over something that really came out from bullying to begin with. Until you've determined that there's an actual cause and case and not a he said, she said, there was no reason to get parents' involvement. Kids say stupid crap all the time, and I can't even guarantee this kid said this. Now, again, this is going to be something that I'm going to be looking into. And if there is a retraction due, I will be the first one to come out and say that there's a retraction due on this one. If there's evidence more than a student came in and said, little Bobby said that he was going to kill me. But we see these stories pop up year after year. And with people being as on edge as they are with the school shooting situation that's been astroturfed into the media at this point, there's a reason that this is on the things that I hate list. Alright, last couple here. Insider again reporting. Taylor Swift threatens to sue the college student who tracks her private jet. Grace K and Taylor Raines reporting for this one. Taylor Swift has threatened to take legal action against the college student who tracks her private jet and manages social media accounts that publish its flights. The pop star's lawyer sent Jack Sweeney, a University of Central Florida student who first made headlines for tracking Elon's private jets, a cease and desist letter in December, the Washington Post first reported on Tuesday. The notice, which Sweeney confirmed to Business Insider that he'd received, called for him to stop stalking and harassing behavior, said the jet's tracking had caused Swift to live in a constant state of fear for her personal safety, with all of her private security, per the Post. Except there's one problem. The only thing this guy's reporting is what the tail number is on the plane that everybody already knows is privately owned. This information is publicly out there. There's no call to action with any of this, just like it was with Musk, and he was in the wrong when he did the same thing. Musk did the exact same thing. Now, whether or not it's right for him to come back and repost this, I don't know. It's publicly out there. It's legally accessible. You can go, if you want to know where Taylor Swift's plane is, and you can go through the FAA registry and find the tail number of the plane that's registered to Taylor Swift. You can find that information in about 20 minutes. Maybe less. It's not like this is some big government secret. Now, of course, when somebody's looking at somebody like Elon, who's got tons of money and can make his life a living hell through his lawyers, or someone like Taylor Swift, who's got tons of money and can make his life a living hell through lawyers, I can understand where he'd feel forced to go back and do this. But again, this is all publicly available information. It's not like somebody's putting an AirTag on Taylor Swift's car or something and trying to track her and report a location that way. I don't know why he's doing this. I wouldn't do something like this. But he's also, again, not disseminating top secret information in doing so. Is it weird? Yes. Is it illegal? 99% probably not. Speaking of Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce coming in after the Super Bowl to try to speculate on why people are so fascinated with his relationship with Swift. I'm going to read just a little bit of this, but I'm going to tell you why people are fascinated by this. Katie Jerkovich reporting. Travis Kelce revealed what he thinks is the reason the world is fascinated with his relationship with Swift. Kelce said he thinks the reason people are so interested with the romance is because of the values the couple shares. I think the values that we stand for, just who we are as people, Kelce said during the Super Bowl 58 press conference on Thursday. We love to shine light on others, shine light around people that help and support us. And on top of that, I feel like we both just have a love for life, he added. No, that's not the reason people are obsessed with it. Here's the reason people are obsessed with it. It's astroturfed. And that's the long and short of it. The mainstream media pushed it up into the front of the headlines, along with the idea that the MAGA people were mad at Taylor Swift. that they hated her because she was politically active. I've not met a single MAGA person who actually hates Taylor Swift. I will fully confess, I like some of her music, not very much of it, but I enjoy some of Taylor Swift's songs. There's one of them on my guitar learning song list. I would not change how I vote because of her. I would not change my ideas on public sentiment, or what's the word I'm looking for? Public policy because of her. I like the song Blank Space, and I like the song Blank Space. I like that one country song, the Marry Me Juliet one. Love Story. I like that one. Yes, I like Shake It Off. And I don't care what you think about that. There was another really good one, too, that I liked a lot. I think those were like the other one. I can't even think of the name of it. But there are like 4 Taylor Swift songs that I like. Out of whatever hundreds of that are in the library. But it's AstroTurfed. It's in the news because, well, newspapers sell on division. And the division between the Swifties, Gen Z, and the MAGA people, whom the media has a vested interest in forcing the belief that the MAGA people hate the Swifties. So that's why people are obsessed with it. It has nothing to do with you. You're a moderate to fairly good football player. And yes, Taylor Swift has a lot of songs out there, so yeah, it's not you guys. All right, and the last one before we head out of here for the night. Elizabeth Warren. Because it's always Elizabeth Warren, and she does this every year, by the way. So this is nothing new. We talked about this last year at this time, because she AstroTurfs this every year. We have talked about Elizabeth Warren's complaints with tax companies charging people to file their taxes for every year that we've had a contemporary. So every year since 2020, we've been doing this for 4 years, and all 4 years we've talked about Elizabeth Warren. Chief Spreading Bull says, every time you see a TurboTax ad, remember, they spent millions of dollars lobbying to make the tax filing process difficult and time-consuming as possible. Which is a lie, by the way. All to protect their bottom line. But now the IRS is testing out a truly free direct file option. There is so much wrong with this. Number one, no, the TurboTax is not the lobbyist that's making the tax code complicated. It's the billionaires that donate to campaigns like Elizabeth Warren's and Joe Biden's. And half of the neocon Republicans, probably about a quarter of the MAGA Republicans, most of the Progressive Caucus. Because they need to make the tax code as progressive as possible to favor one special interest group or the other, whether it be the poor, the rich, the business leader, the welfare recipient, throw your skin color in there if you've got to. There's always some special interest group that's out there that needs to have some sort of break or some sort of this or some sort of that to make the tax code complicated. Taxation is theft. We don't need taxation to begin with. And there are a lot of talks about the simple flat tax and everything else. I'm going to tell you right off the bat. The last people that I want following my taxes are the government, who has a vested interest to get as much money out of me as they can. That is the last group of people that I trust filing my taxes. I have an uncle that has had financial problems for his entire life that I would trust filing my taxes before I would trust the government. So no, you can take your truly free direct file option and shove it up your ass. Meanwhile, I will continue to pay what I think a lot of people will consider to be an exorbitant amount of money to a firm in Northern Illinois, a woman who might be watching this video at some point. I will continue to pay money to that company to file for me on my behalf. And you've seen probably the lady in the chat here and there. And she will come in here. She'll come down and sit down and watch what it is that I do and this, that, and the next thing. But she'll make sure that I pay the least amount to the government that's legally possible. And I will probably skip a few deductions this year because I've said so many bad things about the government. And make sure all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. And if for whatever reason the government decides they need to come back and take a bigger chunk out of my money, or decides that I didn't file it just particularly right enough, then she will sit there and, as a bonded business, work on my behalf with the documents as well. So I don't care how free it is to file with the government. I'm still not going to let them file it. Fuck that. No way. And we are done. The shows are getting a little bit longer. We're not going to do 2 this week, I can tell you that. But definitely got a lot done tonight, so appreciative of that. A lot of stuff to talk about, a lot of stuff to go over, and, well, that one long video in the middle of the whole thing, too. So I'm starting to talk like Joe Biden. I'm starting to get... Let's get out of here. All right. Thank you, everybody who came by and chatted in the live chat. Came and hung out, and everybody who's going to watch this on the replay, whether it be on Spotify or on YouTube or on Rumble as well. You can go check us out on any of those platforms. I will be back here tomorrow night. We're going to take another crack at Unalesca rather, on Final Fantasy X, after I legitimately rage quit last week. You guys can go back and check the video on that over on YouTube. I think the replay's still up on Twitch too if you guys want to go and see that. But yeah, the calmest rage quit in history. Definitely go check that out if you want to go see that. Otherwise, we'll be back here next week for more news, more headlines, and more contemporary. Come join me on Tuesday to come and see what it is that's going to happen in the next 7 days. Looking forward to that. Looking forward to seeing you here. And looking forward to seeing the news rhetoric ramp up again as we go into an election year where more and more stuff is going to happen to try to distract you from the stuff that they don't want you to see anymore. So take care. Have a fantastic night. We will see you on the flip side. You can go check out the Discord if you want to come back and join the discussion, or just see pictures of my cool wine setup. Any of those things. We will see you here next time. Take care. Have a fantastic night. Goodbye. Wonderful. Take care. And until next time, I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary.